working out, even in the absence of anabolic steroids, is going to increase the size of your heart. Now, when we say the heart gets bigger, we're really only talking about the left ventricle, which is the 1/4 of the heart. The reason why the left ventricle gets bigger is because that's the chamber of the heart that's pumping the blood out to the rest of the body. Man, I'm popular today. Pumping it out to the rest of the body. And by doing that, okay, if you have a bigger body, okay, that requires more blood, okay, that chamber will get bigger and stronger, just like any other muscle in our body would. So that if you're squatting 600 pounds, you're going to need a lot more blood output to those quads. And so training itself will thicken the left ventricle up. Taking steroids, just like they do with the regular muscle, okay, makes the left ventricle get even bigger, because now the heart can get even more souped up to produce more blood to this ever-increasing body size. Okay, so that's an athletic heart, what we call that. Now, in some people, they have something wrong with the heart, just to begin with, and that could be for a number of reasons. Genetic, it could be something that's just happened. Maybe they had a virus when they were younger and they had some damage to the heart. In a heart that's not functioning, perfectly, because there is some damage to it, if you enlarge that left ventricle, that could exacerbate these small little problems that were there that no one even knew about. It could cause arrhythmias. Okay, it can cause regurgitation, where the blood is going back into the chambers it just came out of, because the valves are not closing properly. Arnold had, I think, an aortic valve changed or something like that. One of his valves was bad on his heart at one point, and later in life, I think he was in his 60s, he had that fixed. So everyone has different issues. Okay, so now you bring COVID or the vaccine into the equation, and for some reason these spike proteins, which are the portions of the coronavirus that actually attach to the cells, they seem to cause weird anomalies to the blood vessels, to the heart itself. And so if you have COVID in your body, it could be causing some issues in the lungs, in the heart, and other organs. Taking the vaccine, which makes your body produce these spike proteins so that our immune system could recognize them and then produce an immune response to them, could also be potentially making things worse. So now you have potentially a damaged heart just because there was something wrong with it to begin with. Now it's enlarged but it's athletically enlarged. It's not pathologically enlarged because the heart wasn't working, but it got bigger because you're putting stress on it in the gym. And now you have something that's causing a chronic inflammation in the heart, COVID and or the vaccine. And I'm not an expert on how much it does or if there's a way to quantify it, but all three of these things together now can result in a terrible outcome. And I think that's what we're seeing. So I don't think necessarily one or the other I don't think it's like steroids plus COVID equals death. I think it's if you have a problem and things get worse and the heart is not functioning well, and now you add in more chronic inflammation. I mean, we know Cedric had some chronic pneumonia that he was dealing with. He was having chronic hiccups. He had ulcers. So there was a lot going on. And we know that ulcers and that type of stuff can lead to coronary events, specifically heart attacks, in just people who just have ulcers, okay? Obviously, stress on top of that is not good. So when you start adding up all these things, that's when people have problems. We know Sean Roden also had tremendous stress on him. He was dealing with a potential rape case. We know he had ulcers anyway that he had revealed, I think, a couple of years prior that he had dealt with. He was a guy who internalized a lot of stress anyway. So you add up all these factors, and that's, even though the person looks outwardly speaking like they're in great shape, inwardly they're a ticking time bomb. And I think that the only way you can really look at this would be to get an echocardiogram, see how big your heart is, get a cardiac CT scan, see how the blood vessels are functioning in the coronary circulation, which is the blood supply to the heart. See if that's compromised in any way. And if you do these tests, you can sometimes circumvent a lot of these issues. You can see on an echocardiogram if your heart is pathologically big. And even if it's big, if it's functioning and pumping blood efficiently and you're getting a good cardiac output, then there's nothing to worry about. But if you have an enlarged heart and and your cardiac output is like in a very low range, that means it's not functioning well. And that's then you have to address that. So, and there are medications you could take, and there are things to do to bring the heart down in size. And so these are things you would only know if you went for these diagnostic tests. And that's why it's important that you do these.